In the late 1970s, space movies with amazing special effects were in vogue, with the likes of Star Wars, Close Encounters of the Third Kind and Moonraker all printing money. One attempt at chasing those space bucks didn't turn out so well. We're looking at what happens when the House of Mouse disappeared up at Disney's black hole.
A pint cannot hold a quart, Mr. Pizer. If it holds the pint, it's doing the best it can.
Memory is a funny old thing. You know something, you forget it, and then you remember it. I saw the black hole when it came out, and then I completely put it out of my mind for a very long time. And then, one night, I woke up in terror, screaming and covered in sweat, because I had a flashback to an indelible image from this movie. Then I realised I was actually remembering a scene from the Phantom Toll Booth, and then I went back to sleep. In my mind palace, memories of Disney's black hole dwell in a closet in the basement, next to a bucket, a mop, a toilet plunger, and everything else I used to deal with overflowing shit. Up until the 1980s, Disney had been that studio that had been churning out fairly low-budget live-action movies aimed at families, usually G-rated and sometimes with fantastical elements. You used to hear a lot about creatives at the time only going to pitch their fantasy movie to Disney as an absolute last resort at getting studio involvement before inevitably going off to smaller indies. When Star Wars showed that putting money into an effects-laden film with a fun story and half-decent characters could sell loads of tickets,
how are you?
Most studios rushed to totally miss the point and greenlight expensive FX-laden films. The thing about chasing a trend is, 90% of the time people copy the superficial aspects rather than the substance. It's a bit like being peckish after seeing an ad for a delicious looking bar of chocolate, then printing a copy of the wrapper and eating that.
There are three basic types, Mr. Pizer: the wills, the won'ts, and the can'ts. The wills accomplish everything, the won'ts oppose everything, and the can'ts won't try anything.
Disney's black hole begins on the Earth ship Palamino, crewed by some familiar faces, even if they weren't necessarily A-listers at the time of production. There's the cautious space captain, a cocky young guy who won't follow orders, an ebullient journalist, someone with ESP looking for her father, an unemotional scientist, and an annoying robot spouting cliches and proverbs designed to test the patience of everyone.
There is a saying that you can't unscramble eggs.
A penny's worth of philosophy right now isn't going to buy us out of this now, Vincent.
A good offense is the best defense.
These are some of the flattest performances from main cast members that I can recall outside of 2D cell animation. The Palamino finds a giant black hole and just parked off to the side the long-lost USS Cygnus. On board, our heroes find the Cygnus crew are lost, seemingly replaced by robots, led by Dr. Hans Reinhardt, played by Maximilian Schell.
Welcome aboard the Cygnus.
Hans Reinhardt.
It can't be.
Maximilian Schell, in a performance that would have won an Academy Award had he been portraying a chronic drunk in a drama about alcohol addiction. Instead, we get Dr. Hans Reinhardt. He's been studying and looking up Disney's black hole for years and plans to penetrate Disney's black hole with a long, oh come on, we're better than that. Sometimes you can just push things too far. Dinner with Dr. Reinhardt feels like an old horror film, where travelers who broke down in the rain seek shelter in an old mansion and slowly realize their host is nuttier than a squirrel's stool sample.
The vortex will cause us to move at incredible speed, and that angle will slingshot us through.
Oh, and there are robots. Lots of robots. Sentries that are basically robot stormtroopers, so nobody's going to mind too much when they get blown apart after lots of laser battles where the sentries use the same combat tactics as the megaliths of Stonehenge. Stand there and, well, that's it, just stand there. There's also Maximilian, the creepy, evil killer henchman robot of Dr. Reinhardt, who has his signature spinning blades that are quite useful for trimming the hedges, and he can make a mean smoothie if you ask nicely enough. His dispatch of Anthony Perkins' character is probably the film's scariest moment.
The time has come to liquidate our guests.
Then there's Old Bob, voiced by Slim Pickens, who never once says wahoo, not even once.
If Maximilian knew you were here, it'd be the end for the both of us.
Vincent, with his never-ending stream of bullshit, is voiced by Roddy McDowall.
As an old Navy hero once said, damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead.
He also said something about going in harm's way.
To the surprise of no one, Reinhardt is not just a little nutty, but off his trolley, having turned the former crew into cyborgs. The Palamino crew try to escape, but for some reason Ernest Borgnine takes off on his own and crashes back into the Cygnus. After perhaps years of being positioned near a bloody great black hole without incident, some asteroids decide that this was a good time to crash into the ship, which sets off some exciting scenes of the Palamino crew trying to get to Reinhardt's probe vessel before things get a little weird. Everybody is sucked into Disney's black hole with some freaky effects depicting something. The end of the film is basically Disney's version of the Stargate sequence from 2001: A Space Odyssey. The crew go up Disney's black hole and see some weird shit, tripping balls. I can't really explain what the hell is going on here. Reinhardt was 1 minute trapped by falling debris, and then he's just floating about when Maximilian comes and somehow integrates Reinhardt into his body. Huh? So Maximilian Schell somehow ends up in Maximilian's shell. We don't really get an epilogue to tell us the former crew of the Palamino are safe and well, we just don't see them crushed to death and spat out on the other end of the universe. Also, Disney's black hole fanfiction can get very bleak.
I've never doubted that.
The movie has one or two interesting moments, mainly Anthony Perkins getting Moulinexed by Maximilian and the impending destruction of the Cygnus by various things crashing into it. Disney's effects team did some sterling work in some scenes, and in others they just showed just how far the industry still had to go in order to catch up to ILM. There are curiously bad matting and animation effects dotted throughout the movie, in amongst the mainly good effects. The score by John Barry is one of his few science fiction films, is decent enough, but it is wasted on a film of this quality.
But Alex, how can a lifeless derelict defy that kind of gravity?
I don't know, but it's certainly worth investigating.
Despite a cast of actors known for good work elsewhere, this film won't be on any of the cast's showreels. Ernest Borgnine seems to be trying his hardest to liven things up, and Anthony Perkins comes across as almost sedated. Everyone else is fairly flat and inanimate and humorless. It's like a typical episode of the comedy series Wings. The film gives each actor only one or two things to hang a character on. He's a humorless scientist, she's looking for dad and has ESP. McHale's Navy residuals have run out. Maximilian Schell, despite appearing inebriated, at least adds a sense of menace to the film.
There's any justice at all. The black hole will be your grave.
Disney's black hole had been kicking around the Disney lot for a few years, and when I mentioned chasing trends, the original inspiration for this film was not Star Wars-style space opera, but more Irwin Allen-style disaster movie set in space. After years of drafts, the final script used the disaster elements in the third act when some glowing asteroids randomly hit the vessel. The shooting script mixes space fantasy adventure, some fairly tame horror elements, a disaster movie, and 2001: A Space Odyssey. The result is mixing random colours of plasticine together and being shocked it ends up a purple mess.
There's too much at stake to pull back. I'm on the brink of a great achievement.
Gary Nelson had mainly directed TV series and telemovies, which in Disney's eyes meant he was the perfect director of a big-budget science fiction adventure. Star Wars influence is undeniable. Vincent and Old Bobs are obvious stand-ins for the droids. Disney's black hole was not alone in adding annoying robots to late 70s science fiction films. The thing that holds up the best are the sets, which do look grand and different enough from other franchises. The Sentry droid design is good, even if their clunky walk half goose-stepping around would make it impossible for them to sneak up on anyone.
A wolf remains a wolf, even if it has not eaten your sheep.
The thing that most makes me not like this film, Vincent. His constant spouting of platitudes, proverbs and cliches is the one time in history where I have intensely disliked one of Roddy McDowall's performances.
Don't worry, Mr. Pizer. They also serve who only stand and wait.
Vincent, were you programmed to bug me?
No, sir, to educate you.
Disney's Black Hole earned itself a PG rating, Disney's first. Apparently turning Anthony Perkins into a smoothie will do that. Disney was hoping the film would be a big hit with lots of merchandise available. Apparently I bought some of it back in the day, and for some reason I still have this storybook. Disney's Black Hole box office numbers didn't indicate the film was a particularly successful film financially, and its reviews at the time were like user reviews of a murder house on Airbnb not overly positive.
I don't enjoy successes anymore.
That said, Disney at one point had explored remaking the black hole, but somehow hadn't got around to it, because maybe their turd polishing machine has been booked solid for years.
You can't modify perfection. We're the best.
Disney's Black Hole is not a great movie by any stretch of the imagination. It has some interesting ideas and reasonable production values, all rendered neutral by a padded script and fairly flat performances. Just like the time Auntie Beryl unsuccessfully tried to restore a Rothko with liquid paper. Disney's Black Hole is a curio, a relic of a time where any old shit set in space with a massive effects budget and a lousy script would be instantly greenlit by a major studio. It's just a good thing that that doesn't happen anymore. Apart from when it does. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, leave a comment below, or check out some of our other videos.